My crab cakes recipe makes for the perfect healthy appetizer or main course. I'm Justin from Cooking with Coit. I specialize in clean comfort cooking. And remember, if you love this recipe, make sure you hit those like and subscribe buttons. Let's get started. Let's start by going over all the ingredients you need to make this recipe. Crab, breadcrumbs, parsley, lemon juice, chives, celery, egg, mayonnaise, Dijon mustard, sweet pickles or sweet relish, Old Bay seasoning, and salt and pepper. I also include a fantastic recipe for tartar sauce. So we're gonna work on that first, and then we're gonna set it aside while we work on our crab cakes. If you already have a store-bought tartar sauce, or if you've already made your own, you can skip ahead in the video. First thing we're gonna do is to mince up 1 tablespoon of chives. Now we're gonna add these chives to a small mixing bowl. Next thing we're gonna add is 3/4 cup of mayonnaise. Usually in our house, we don't eat a ton of mayonnaise, so typically we get veganese, which might sound kind of gross to many of you. Let me know in the comments below if you're down with veganese or you would never eat it. I feel like people are very polarized with that issue. But for this recipe, we're gonna use the real thing, real mayo. Next, we're gonna add 1 tablespoon of sweet pickles that are minced up, or you can use sweet relish, that works just the same. Next, we're gonna add 1 teaspoon of Dijon mustard, and we're gonna add 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. For 1 tablespoon, I figure it's about 1/4 to 1/2 of a lemon, depending on the size of the lemon. This is a fairly big lemon, so I'm doing probably just about 1/4 of it. I think lemon juice is a fantastic complement to this sauce, so if you go a little overboard, that's okay. And now we're just gonna do a little bit of salt and pepper to taste, and let's give this a nice mix and get it all well combined. And this is exactly how the tartar sauce should be looking right now. All right guys, now we're gonna work on the actual crab cakes themselves. So we're gonna start with 1/4 cup of minced celery. Now I like to slice the celery down the middle, all the way through. And then if you can, maybe get a smaller paring knife out. And then I like to split it again, basically cutting it in half lengthwise. We're gonna do that on both pieces. So now you basically quartered the celery stalk, so just do a fine mince from here. I'm gonna mince the celery a little finer now because you don't want giant chunks of celery in your crab cakes, or else it might keep them from holding together really nicely. So let's just give this a once more over. Next, we're going to mince up 2 tablespoons of parsley. Fresh parsley adds such an incredible and important pop of flavor in these crab cakes, so I would not skip this. All right guys, so now we are going to assemble all of the crab cake ingredients and mix it together in a large bowl. Let's first start with 1 large egg. We're gonna do the egg first so that we have a chance to beat it in the bowl while it's by itself. So give this egg a quick beat. Now we're going to add 1/4 cup of mayonnaise, 1 tablespoon of Dijon mustard. We're gonna add 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. And again, that's probably gonna be about 1/2 to 1/4 of a lemon, depending on how big it is. Let's add the parsley that we've already minced up. Let's also add the celery that we've already minced up. I'm next gonna add 1/2 cup of panko breadcrumbs. And you can just use regular breadcrumbs if you don't have access to panko. Panko is just the Japanese version of the breadcrumb. The breadcrumbs in this recipe serve a very important purpose. They do 2 things. They add a little bit of extra nice texture to these crab cakes, but they also act as a very important binder, which help these crab cakes stay together really nicely while you cook them. And now we're gonna add probably the most important ingredient in this recipe, and that is Old Bay seasoning. I'm sure you guys have heard of Old Bay seasoning. It's like a real East Coast of the United States, like Baltimore, Maryland, that type of area. They love Old Bay. And I really do like Old Bay too. I'm gonna add 1 teaspoon of Old Bay, but I actually had not the best experience with Old Bay once. I went actually to a crab shack in Maryland. When I sat down, I didn't realize how much they love Old Bay, and they literally smothered these crabs. I left feeling a little sick because it was just like so much Old Bay. Just saying, if you love Old Bay, go for it. If you wanna go easy on the Old Bay, I totally understand. 1 teaspoon is the perfect amount for this recipe. Next, we're gonna add 1/4 teaspoon of salt, just like a pinch or 2. And we're gonna add a little bit of black pepper as well. Guys, I was almost gonna say, now we're ready to fry these guys up. I haven't added the crab. So let's add the crab because there wouldn't be crab cakes if there wasn't crab. One important note on the crab. So I bought lump crab. That is the best way to go in my opinion. The one thing I will say though is that what you need to do before you empty the crab into the bowl is just see how much the crab has been sort of like mashed up. The last jar of crab that I got, the chunks were actually quite big, and you don't want giant chunks in these crab cakes or else they won't hold together. Now this is looking pretty good, so I'm just taking a fork and I'm just making sure that I kind of mash it up one more time before it falls into the bowl. Now this is looking really good. All right, so now you can get your hands in there if you want, which is what I'm gonna do, or you can use a spatula just to mix it all over. I prefer my hands, so I'm gonna get in there. Just give this a nice mix, and what we wanna do is try to form a really sticky texture. And it is coming together really nicely. The smell is already amazing. And just so you guys know, in case it wasn't already obvious, the crab that I've used has been already cooked. I'm not using raw crab, so just keep that in mind. All right. So let me guys show you how this mixture should be looking right now. All right guys, so now we're going to fry these crab cakes up. So let's take a little bit of avocado oil, put it into the pan here. Just want this oil to heat up just a little bit before we start putting in the crab cakes mixture. One thing that I really love about avocado oil is that it handles high heat very well. So I love using it for pan frying. So now we're gonna take about a half a cup's worth of this crab cakes mixture and form it into little patties here. I like to flatten it out just a little bit because I don't want this crab cake to be too tall. This is a really nice size. And then you can drop them one by one right into the oil. So as you're forming these crab cakes with your hands, you're going to notice very quickly whether the ratio of the ingredients you used are right in terms of does the crab cake stick together really well? And so hopefully they are sticking together well. One tip is if they don't stick together well, what you can do is add a little bit more breadcrumbs and then mix it up again, and that should get them stickier. All right guys, we're gonna cook these crab cakes about 3 to 5 minutes per side. Okay, now they're looking ready to be flipped. Let's see how we're doing. Oh, looking amazing. Oh man, these are looking incredible. Wow. And what you're looking for is a nice, crispy, golden crust on both sides of these crab cakes. All right guys, these crab cakes and homemade tartar sauce look so incredible. I cannot wait to give them a try. But before I do, if you love this recipe and you wanna see more just like it, check out my healthy recipes playlist. Okay, let's give these a try. These crab cakes are perfect. Nice and crispy on the outside, nice and tender on the inside, and paired with this homemade tartar sauce, it is just so good. Guys, you've got to give these a try. I know you'll love them. I'll see you in the next video.